What if a billionaire disguised himself as a beggar, just to find a wife for his only son? In the streets of Accra, secrets will be exposed, lies will be shattered, and scandals will tear families apart. Stay tuned, because this story will keep you glued until the very end. And if you love juicy Ghanaian drama, hit that subscribe button right now, so you don't miss the twists and betrayals we have for you. The story begins in the bustling heart of Accra, Ghana, where the hum of car horns mixes with the chatter of market women and the aroma of roasted plantain fills the air. Behind the walls of a sprawling East Legon mansion lives Richard Dawson, a 62-year-old billionaire whose fortune rests on vast estates, luxury apartments, and businesses across the country. To the world, Richard is a symbol of power and success, but inside his mansion, his greatest worry is his only son, Michael Dawson. Michael, 30 years old, is tall, strikingly handsome, and blessed with every privilege money can buy. He drives the most expensive cars, attends elite parties, and has the attention of Ghana's most glamorous women. But behind his charm lies a troubling flaw: he is arrogant, shallow, and surrounded by women who love only his father's wealth, not his true self. Richard watches with growing despair as his son wastes his life chasing after vanity and pleasure, blind to the kind of woman who could ground him with humility, compassion, and love. Richard knows the Dawson empire cannot be entrusted to a man who chooses a wife based on beauty and social media fame. He fears that the wrong marriage could not only destroy his son but also ruin the family name. And so, after weeks of restless nights, Richard devises a daring plan. He would leave behind his tailored suits, his designer shoes, and the life of wealth he has built. In their place, he would become what society ignores, an old beggar wandering the streets of Accra. In this disguise, he would test the hearts of women, searching for one whose kindness and loyalty were untouched by greed. One morning, before the world awakens, Richard sits before his mirror. His smooth, wealthy exterior vanishes under layers of dust and tattered clothes. He smears charcoal on his face, slips into a worn-out shirt full of holes, and ties a rag around his head. His leather shoes are replaced with broken slippers. In his hand, he grips a walking stick, his back bent slightly to complete the illusion of weakness. By the time he steps into the streets, not a trace of the billionaire remains. To the eyes of strangers, he is nothing more than another forgotten soul begging for survival. His first stop is Medina Market, a place alive with color and chaos. Hawkers shout the prices of tomatoes, plantain, and smoked fish. Trotros honk impatiently, and schoolchildren weave through the crowd. Here, Richard begins his act. He stretches out his hand, begging for coins. Some passers-by drop a few pesewas without even glancing at him. Others shove him aside, annoyed by his presence. A group of young men laugh, mocking his ragged clothes. Hours pass, and Richard begins to feel the weight of his disguise, not just on his body but on his heart. For the first time, he experiences the humiliation that beggars endure daily. Yet he remains determined. He watches carefully, observing faces, testing the spirit of those who cross his path. It is then that he notices her. A young woman at a plantain stall, her skin glowing cocoa brown under the afternoon sun. Her almond-shaped eyes reveal both strength and exhaustion. She balances heavy bunches of plantain with practiced ease, her natural hair tied neatly in a bun. This is Grace, 26 years old, who spends long hours under the sun to support her younger siblings. Richard stumbles deliberately near her stall, his voice hoarse as he stretches out his hand. Unlike the many who ignored him, Grace's eyes soften. Without hesitation, she takes a bottle of water from her stall and presses it into his palm. She follows it with a portion of roasted plantain, her gesture free from judgment or mockery. Richard studies her closely. She does not ask for thanks, nor does she look around for praise. She simply returns to her work, as though helping him were the most natural act in the world. For Richard, the moment is powerful. Here, in the chaos of Medina Market, he has found something rare, a woman who shows kindness not because she expects reward, but because it is who she is. The billionaire disguised as a beggar feels a spark of hope for the first time in years. As the day fades, Richard leaves the market, but his mind is consumed by the young woman at the plantain stall. He recalls the insults of strangers, the mocking laughter of the youth, the indifference of the wealthy women who brushed past him earlier. None had shown the humanity Grace displayed so effortlessly. In that single act, she sets herself apart from all the others. That night, back in his mansion, Richard removes his disguise and sinks into his leather chair, his body tired but his spirit alive with a new purpose. He has found someone worth watching. But this is only the beginning. Grace's kindness must be tested further, her character observed in different lights. The billionaire knows the path ahead will not be simple. He will dig deeper, he will uncover the truth of her heart, and he will shape circumstances to bring her closer to his son. What Richard does not know, however, is that his plan will unleash secrets and betrayals that will shake the Dawson family to its core. His disguise may help him find a worthy woman, but it will also draw enemies from the shadows, people who will do anything to claim the wealth and power of the Dawson name. And so, the stage is set. A billionaire hides behind rags, a plantain seller unknowingly enters the test of her life, and an arrogant heir remains blind to the storm that is about to change everything. In the quiet hours of the morning, when the streets of Accra are still damp from the night's dew, Richard Dawson rises from his grand bed in the East Legon mansion. The previous day's events play over in his mind, the humiliation he endured, the cruelty of strangers, and the rare kindness of Grace, the plantain seller. Her face lingers in his thoughts like a soft echo. Her eyes, filled with quiet strength, had shown him what wealth could not buy, a heart that cares without expectation. Richard begins a silent investigation. Behind closed doors, he orders his most trusted aide to follow Grace discreetly. What he learns over the following days leaves him both humbled and deeply moved. Grace lives in Nima, one of Accra's most densely populated communities. Her home is a small wooden kiosk patched with rusted roofing sheets, barely large enough for her and her younger siblings. She is the breadwinner, having lost both parents to illness years ago. Her younger brother, Kevin, is 17 and dreams of studying abroad, while her little sister, Melissa, just 9, still clutches her late mother's wrapper whenever she sleeps. Grace sells plantain from dawn till dusk, often skipping meals so her siblings can eat. Despite the crushing weight of poverty, she carries herself with dignity, never begging, never compromising her morals for survival. Meanwhile, life in the Dawson mansion is a stark contrast. Michael Dawson spends his days surrounded by opulence, luxury cars parked in the driveway, marble floors gleaming under golden chandeliers, and designer clothes overflowing from his walk-in closet. Yet, behind all the glamour lies emptiness. Michael has grown accustomed to the company of women who know only how to take, women who measure love in the number of champagne bottles popped at Sky Bar or the brand of bags slung over their shoulders. One such woman is Vanessa. At 27, she is light-skinned, statuesque, and constantly draped in the latest fashion. Her long Brazilian hair cascades down her back, and her social media is filled with filtered selfies taken in 5-star hotels and luxury resorts. To many, she is the perfect catch, beautiful, confident, and always dressed to impress. But Richard sees through the glitter. Vanessa is a hunter, and her prey is Michael's inheritance. Unbeknownst to Michael, Vanessa has no interest in building a life with him. She is in love with the Dawson fortune, not the man. And though she plays her role well, smiling sweetly at family dinners, calling Richard "Daddy" with practiced affection, she has no intention of being a loyal partner. Her eyes are fixed on the title of Mrs. Dawson, and she will do whatever it takes to get it. Richard, determined to change the course of his son's life, orchestrates a plan. He arranges for Michael and Grace to meet, staging what appears to be a chance encounter. The setting is simple, a roadside fuel station where Grace has brought plantain to sell to drivers during the morning rush. Michael, instructed by his father to take a particular route that day, finds himself in front of her stall. At first, Michael barely notices her. Dressed in her usual faded skirt and head wrap, Grace is a far cry from the polished women he's used to. He scoffs inwardly at the thought that his father might expect him to consider someone like her. But as he watches her interact with customers, as he sees her patiently handle rude remarks and still offer a smile, something inside him shifts, just a little. Grace, however, remains unmoved. She has no interest in flashy men who drive expensive cars and wear watches that could pay for her entire year's rent. To her, Michael is just another rich man passing through, curious for a taste of struggle before returning to his mansion. She keeps her distance, treating him like any other stranger. What neither of them knows is that they are both part of a larger game, a test orchestrated by a father who is desperate to save his son from destruction. As days pass, Richard continues to disguise himself as a beggar, watching from a distance. He tests Grace again and again, dropping coins in front of her to see if she will keep them, pretending to be sick and collapsing near her kiosk to see if she will help. Each time, Grace responds with quiet compassion. She does not boast about her kindness. She does not expect reward. She simply does what is right. Vanessa, on the other hand, begins to sense that something is amiss. She notices Michael's distracted behavior, his growing disinterest in their outings, and his subtle avoidance of her. Her instincts tell her another woman has entered the picture. One evening, while scrolling through her phone at a rooftop lounge, Vanessa spots something that makes her heart skip, an old, grainy photo of a beggar at Medina Market. In the background, just barely visible, is a familiar face, Richard Dawson. Her eyes narrow. She zooms in, studies the photo again, and a memory floods back. Weeks ago, she had mocked a beggar on the street, tossing an empty bottle near his feet and laughing with her friends. She never looked closely at his face. But now, the truth dawns on her, she had insulted the billionaire himself. Panic creeps into her chest. If Richard has been disguising himself as a beggar, then everything she assumed about her position in the family is wrong. And if he is testing women, then Grace must be part of his plan. Vanessa's panic quickly transforms into rage. She refuses to be replaced by a market girl. Not after everything she has done to climb her way into Michael's life. She begins to plot, determined to dig up dirt on Grace and destroy her reputation before she gets any closer to the Dawson family. Back in Nima, Grace remains unaware of the storm brewing. She focuses on selling her plantain, taking care of her siblings, and surviving each day with dignity. But soon, she will find herself in the crossfire of a battle she never asked to fight, a battle between a woman who has everything and a woman who has nothing but her character. And somewhere in the shadows, the billionaire beggar watches it all unfold. The sun burns high over Accra, and the city moves with its usual rhythm, tirotros packed to the brim, hawkers weaving between cars, and market women calling out their prices. But inside the life of Grace, the plantain seller, the weight of responsibility grows heavier each day. Her stall at the roadside has become both her lifeline and her prison. She works tirelessly, selling from dawn until nightfall, her small profit stretched thin to cover rent, food, and her siblings' education. Richard Dawson, still disguised as a beggar, continues his quiet observation. Each test he sets for Grace only deepens his conviction. One evening, just as the market begins to wind down, he staggers dramatically near her stall, clutching his chest as though struck by illness. The crowd ignores him, some laugh, some shake their heads, but none stop to help. Grace, though exhausted from a long day, rushes to his side. With the little money she has earned, she buys medicine from a nearby pharmacy and brings him water. She offers him a place to sit, fanning him gently with a piece of cardboard until he regains strength. For Richard, the moment is decisive. He is convinced Grace is the kind of woman his son needs. Humble, compassionate, and selfless, qualities absent in the glamorous women Michael usually entertains. Richard begins to plan the next stage, pushing his son closer to Grace. Meanwhile, in the glittering world of Accra's elite, Vanessa grows restless. The woman who has built her life on beauty and status feels her grip on Michael slipping. She notices the small changes, his distracted eyes, his sudden excuses, his lack of enthusiasm for their expensive outings. A seed of fear takes root in her heart. She senses competition, and her instincts are rarely wrong. Desperation drives her to investigate. Through whispers and casual observations, she learns of Grace, the young plantain seller who has somehow caught the attention of Michael and, more dangerously, of Richard. Fury consumes Vanessa. To her, it is unthinkable that a roadside hawker could threaten her carefully built empire of lies and charm. Vanessa sets her trap. She approaches Kevin, Grace's 17-year-old brother, who dreams of escaping poverty. Kevin has long admired Vanessa from a distance, her expensive perfumes, her flashy cars, and her effortless command of attention. When Vanessa offers him money, more than he has ever held in his hands at once, Kevin's resistance weakens. She whispers promises of more, school fees paid, a ticket abroad, a future free from struggle. All he must do, she insists, is tell a simple story, that Grace is already seeing another man, that she is not as innocent as she appears. Kevin wrestles with guilt, but poverty presses hard on his shoulders. In the end, he accepts. With trembling hands, he takes Vanessa's money and agrees to her plan. For Vanessa, it is a victory. She prepares to strike, ready to paint Grace as a liar, a pretender, and a gold digger. As Richard continues his disguise, Michael himself begins to change. Though initially dismissive of Grace, he finds himself drawn to her resilience. Unlike the women he has known, Grace shows no interest in his wealth. She does not giggle at his jokes to flatter him. She does not cling to him in public for show. Instead, she treats him as though he were no one special, forcing him to confront a new reality, that for the first time, he must win a woman's respect, not buy it. The walls around Michael's arrogant heart begin to crack. He visits Grace's stall more often, under the pretense of buying plantain, but secretly to watch her work, to learn her rhythm, to feel her strength. He begins to imagine what life with her could look like, a thought that surprises even him. But just as something genuine begins to grow, Vanessa strikes. At a Dawson family dinner, where relatives and business associates gather under golden lights and soft music, Vanessa arrives with a storm hidden behind her perfect smile. She carries evidence, screenshots fabricated from conversations, cleverly edited messages that suggest Grace is scheming to trap Michael for his money. And she does not come alone. She brings Kevin, dressed neatly, coached to tell his rehearsed lies. The atmosphere at the dinner shifts when Vanessa reveals her findings. Gasps fill the room. Relatives exchange knowing looks, their suspicions about market girls seemingly confirmed. Michael's face hardens with rage and humiliation as Kevin delivers his false testimony. Grace, who had been invited as a guest, stands frozen in shock as her character is torn apart in front of the powerful Dawson family. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Words like gold digger and opportunist sting her ears. She feels the ground shifting beneath her feet. Her sacrifices, her honesty, her dignity, all overshadowed by lies and betrayal. Michael, wounded in his pride, does not wait for explanations. His anger blinds him, and in that blindness, he turns against Grace. Humiliated and heartbroken, Grace is cast out. The woman who once gave her last coin to help a beggar now walks into the night with tears streaming down her face, abandoned by the very man she had unknowingly begun to care for. Richard watches silently. Still in disguise, he sees the cruelty of Vanessa, the weakness of Kevin, and the devastating effect on Grace. His heart burns with anger, but he does not reveal himself yet. To intervene too soon would destroy the lesson his son needs to learn. But within him, a storm is brewing. He has found the woman worthy of his son, yet she has been disgraced. He has witnessed betrayal at the hands of greed, and he knows the time is approaching when he must tear off his disguise and expose the truth. For now, however, Grace disappears into the shadows, her reputation shattered, her heart broken. Vanessa basks in her temporary victory, believing she has secured her place. Michael drowns his pain in anger, blind to the lies he has swallowed. And Richard, the billionaire beggar, waits for the right moment to reveal the secrets he has kept hidden. The city of Accra moves on with its noise and chaos, but for Grace, the world has gone silent. Days after her humiliation at the Dawson mansion, she returns to her small kiosk in Nima, broken and weary. The whispers from the family dinner replay in her mind like poison. The words, gold digger, and opportunist, sting more than hunger ever could. She sells her plantain with trembling hands, each transaction a reminder of how quickly dignity can be torn apart. Customers glance at her, sensing her sorrow, but she forces a smile, hiding the storm raging within. At night, she cries quietly on her thin mattress, her siblings unaware of the weight she carries. Kevin avoids her eyes, the guilt of his betrayal gnawing at him, but he clings to the money Vanessa gave him as though it were salvation. Grace does not confront him. She is too broken to fight, too tired to question why her own brother would hand her to the wolves. Meanwhile, in the luxurious Dawson mansion, the air grows heavy with unease. Michael is restless, torn between anger and emptiness. He had cast Grace aside, convinced by Vanessa's carefully staged lies, yet he cannot silence the memory of her kindness. When he sees her face in his thoughts, it is not the face of a schemer but of a woman who fanned a beggar in the night, who gave her last coin to ease a stranger's pain. Still, his pride holds him captive. He drowns his doubts in alcohol and late nights, but the hollowness remains. Vanessa, on the other hand, celebrates her triumph. She struts through the city's social circles with renewed confidence, certain she has secured her place. She brags quietly to her friends about her cleverness, her ability to outsmart a roadside seller and keep her grip on Michael. But her arrogance blinds her to the danger looming in the shadows. For Richard Dawson, the time for watching in silence is over. He has seen enough, the cruelty of Vanessa, the weakness of Kevin, the blindness of his own son. He knows the truth must come out, and when it does, it will shake the Dawson family to its foundation. One evening, under the dim lights of the mansion's dining hall, Richard springs his trap. He gathers Michael, Vanessa, and a few close family members, all under the guise of a casual dinner. The setting is elegant, silverware glistening under crystal chandeliers, wine glasses filled with rich reds, the polished marble floor reflecting the grandeur of the Dawson wealth. Vanessa arrives confident, her head held high, her smile smug. Michael sits silently, his face tense with unspoken thoughts. Then Richard enters, not as the polished billionaire, but as the beggar. He steps into the hall wearing the same tattered clothes, the same dusty slippers, his walking stick tapping against the floor. Gasps ripple through the room. Vanessa's smile falters, confusion flashing in her eyes. Michael's jaw tightens, unsure what to make of the bizarre sight. Richard slowly removes the rags. Piece by piece, the disguise falls away until he stands tall, his true self revealed in a crisp suit beneath the layers. The shock is electric. Whispers rise around the table. Some stare in disbelief. Others struggle to comprehend what they are witnessing. With calm authority, Richard unveils the truth. For weeks, he had lived as a beggar, testing the hearts of those around him. He recounts the cruelty he endured, the insults he suffered, and the rare kindness of a woman named Grace. He describes how she gave him food when she had little, how she sacrificed her earnings to buy him medicine, how she treated him with dignity when others mocked. Then, with piercing eyes, he turns to Vanessa. Silence hangs in the air as Richard produces his evidence, a recording captured on his aide's hidden device, showing Vanessa bribing Kevin. The audio plays clearly, Vanessa's voice sharp with malice, Kevin's voice trembling as he agrees to betray his sister. The room falls into stunned silence. Michael's world crashes around him. The woman he had trusted, the woman he had defended, is exposed as a liar. Vanessa's face drains of color as the weight of her deception sinks in. She stammers, desperate to explain, but the damage is done. The glamorous slay queen who pranced around Kempinski and posed on social media now stands naked in disgrace before the Dawson family. Kevin, unable to bear the shame, breaks down in tears. He confesses everything, how Vanessa lured him with money, how he allowed greed to silence his loyalty to his sister, how he fabricated lies to destroy Grace. His sobs fill the room, but his confession cannot undo the pain he has caused. Michael feels the sting of betrayal twice over, by Vanessa, who played him for a fool, and by Kevin, whose lies drove away the only woman who showed him real kindness. For the first time in his life, he sees the depth of his arrogance. He realizes that in his pride and anger, he destroyed something rare and beautiful. Richard's eyes soften as he delivers the final blow. The beggar Vanessa mocked, the old man she dismissed as trash, was not a nobody. He was Richard Dawson, the billionaire, the patriarch, the man whose approval she had fought so hard to win. Her arrogance, her cruelty, and her deceit have sealed her fate. The revelation rocks the Dawson mansion. Vanessa, humiliated and exposed, storms out into the night, her dreams of wealth shattered. Kevin, broken by guilt, begs for forgiveness, his tears staining the polished floor. Michael sits in silence, his head in his hands, the weight of his mistakes pressing down like a mountain. And Richard, though victorious in exposing the truth, feels no triumph. His heart aches for Grace, the woman cast out in shame, the woman who proved herself worthy but was punished for her goodness. He knows the next step must be taken, the step to bring her back, to restore her dignity, and to redeem his son. The time has come for redemption. The revelation at the Dawson mansion leaves scars that linger long after the night has ended. Vanessa disappears into the shadows of Accra's nightlife, her once glamorous image now reduced to whispers of shame and laughter at her downfall. Kevin retreats into silence, haunted by the sight of his sister's tears and the weight of his betrayal. And Michael, once arrogant and untouchable, is a man undone. He spends long hours staring at his reflection, haunted by the woman he cast aside. In every quiet moment, he sees Grace's face, her strength, her kindness, her sacrifice. He sees how quickly he destroyed it all. Richard Dawson knows the time for silence is over. He has watched his son stumble, he has seen the wicked exposed, and now, he must make things right. No longer dressed in rags, he dons the full authority of his wealth and influence. In a flowing hand-woven Kent smock embroidered with gold threads, he steps into his black Range Rover, flanked by security escorts. The convoy wins its way through the busy streets of Accra, past the towering buildings of East Legon and into the crowded alleys of Nima. When Richard steps out of the vehicle, the entire community stops. Market women pause mid-sale, children stare wide-eyed, and young men lower their footballs in awe. The billionaire himself has come to their neighborhood. But Richard is not here to flaunt power, he is here for Grace. Grace stands at her kiosk, confusion washing over her as she sees the crowd gather. And then, before her eyes, the man she once thought was a beggar emerges in his true form. Richard Dawson, the billionaire she unknowingly fed, the man she sacrificed her last coin for, stands tall, his presence commanding silence. The community watches in disbelief as the wealthy patriarch approaches the poor plantain seller. In a gesture that shocks everyone, Richard kneels before Grace. A billionaire, on his knees in the dusty street of Nima, humbly asks for her forgiveness. He admits his disguise, his tests, his silence, and his failure to protect her when she was humiliated. He declares, before the entire community, that Grace is the woman worthy of becoming part of the Dawson family. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire, the plantain seller, chosen by a billionaire. Then Michael steps forward. Gone is the arrogance in his eyes. Gone is the entitlement in his stride. He is a broken man, stripped of pride, standing before the woman he hurt. With trembling hands and a voice heavy with regret, he begs for her forgiveness. His arrogance has been shattered, his heart humbled by the lessons of betrayal and truth. Grace hesitates. Her wounds are deep, and trust is not easily restored. She remembers the night she walked away in tears, the sting of humiliation, the betrayal of her own brother. But she also sees Michael's sincerity, the weight of Richard's faith in her, and the way the community looks at her now, not with pity, but with awe. Slowly, cautiously, she allows forgiveness to take root. The redemption is sealed weeks later at a grand engagement in East Legon. The Dawson mansion, once the scene of Grace's humiliation, becomes the stage for her triumph. The courtyard is transformed into a vision of splendor, golden drapes flowing in the evening breeze, Kent cloth adorning the tables, and drums echoing the rhythm of celebration. Guests arrive in regal attire, a blend of Ghanaian tradition and modern luxury, their eyes eager to witness the union of two worlds, the wealth of the Dawsons and the humility of the plantain seller. Grace enters like royalty. No longer in faded skirts, she wears a richly woven Kent dress, her natural beauty accentuated by subtle gold jewelry. Her posture is proud, her dignity restored. The same woman who once sold plantain in the scorching sun now walks through marble halls as the future wife of Ghana's most eligible heir. The cameras flash, capturing every step of her transformation. Michael stands waiting, dressed in an embroidered agbada, his eyes fixed on her with reverence, not arrogance. For the first time, he understands the value of love that money cannot buy. Richard watches with pride, knowing his gamble has paid off, not just for his son's future, but for the legacy of the Dawson name. But scandal has one last role to play. As vows are exchanged and cheers rise from the crowd, Vanessa appears at the gates, desperate and disheveled. She storms into the engagement, screaming accusations, demanding attention. Her once polished appearance is replaced with a desperate glare, her words dripping with venom as she tries to reclaim her place. The crowd gasps, whispers rising like wildfire. Cameras turn to capture her humiliation. But instead of sympathy, Vanessa receives only scorn. The very society she flaunted herself before now watches her unravel. Guards escort her out, her cries fading into the night, her reputation destroyed forever. From the streets of Nima to the mansions of East Legon, we've seen betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption. But this is just one of the many scandals waiting for you on this channel. If you enjoyed this story, don't just click away, drop a comment with your favorite moment, smash that like button, and make sure you subscribe, because the next drama will be even hotter and more scandalous than this one.